You said publicly that humanity is building its own dystopia.
We are building a force with no polarity that is a superpower that has the prospects of creating a dystopia.
What I read about you, that's your passion, to have the technology to understand and to be with intelligent people.
The funny thing is that all CEOs think that AI is God's biggest gift because now they can get rid of people and reduce cost. What AGI is, AI becoming better than every human at every task.
Did you leave because of what you saw technology becoming or because of what you saw humanity becoming?
I left because of both. The first was unfortunately very tragic because I lost my wonderful son unexpectedly, a medical error in a very simple surgical operation.
Especially living in Middle East, we've seen it. We've seen those specific target attack where you have drone that looks like a fly. The phone attack where it was on the phone and they managed to kill at the same time several representatives of a state.
But the truth is, we've seen the destruction that an autonomous kind of weapon can bring about, and the word is silent.
Welcome to the DealMaker Show. Today we are honored with international guests, a global thought leader, a world-renowned expert in artificial intelligence, the former chief business officer of Google X, the Moonshot factory where the most ambitious technology on earth were created. He has worked with the world's top engineers, led innovation at the highest level, and advised international governments, corporations, and institutions on the future of humanity and technology. He is the author of Solve for Happy, a bestseller translated in more than 30 languages, used by leaders, universities, and coaches around the world. He's also the author of Scary Smart, a landmark book that global experts consider one of the most important guides to artificial intelligence and ethics in our time. He founded 1 Billion Happy, a movement dedicated to education and elevating humanity at scale. He worked for has influenced CEOs, engineers, policymakers, and millions of people globally. This is the DealMaker Show, the Middle East home for investors, founders, and disruptors who shape the world. Mo Gawdat, welcome to the show.
Hello, Sahla. Ahlan biki, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. I am so honored to have you on the show. Let's dig straight away. You said publicly that humanity is building its own dystopia. Where exactly are we today in that journey?
We are starting at the deep end. Okay. We are building a force with no polarity that is a superpower that has the prospects of creating a dystopia or a utopia based on how we decide to use it. So what most people don't recognize is how far we've come along the journey of artificial intelligence. Most people don't recognize that this is no longer science fiction. You will get the occasional doubt in terms of, but AI agents are not really as efficient as humans in doing jobs, and AI is really not that intelligent because it hallucinates sometimes. And I find that quite shocking, really, because you're freaking talking to a machine. And that machine knows more than any typical human on the planet. Yeah. And it can do deep analysis on incredible things, and it has participated in research that cured cancer, and it has reinvented mathematics, and it plays every video game on the planet better than any human, every strategy game on the planet better than any human, it drives better than any human, and yet we still believe that we haven't entered the age of sci-fi. Now, the challenge ahead of us, maybe now that you decided to dive deep very early, let's frame it from the very beginning. The challenge ahead of us is that if the worst of humanity, if the most evil of all of us decide to capitalize on artificial intelligence in a way that harms humanity, then we're all going to go through a very long dystopia that might be quite disruptive to the way humans live. But then if we decide to use it for the betterment of mankind, we can literally solve every problem that we've ever faced. And that's not very far away. That's a matter of years now, where you can literally solve everything. You can create a world of total abundance, where basically no one will ever be hungry again, no one will ever be sick again, nobody will ever feel unsafe again, and it's all possible. And I think the difference between them is not a question of technology. The difference between them is literally a question of humanity's mindset.
And ethics.
Well, I mean, ethics are really the underlying challenge, because believe it or not, this superpower is coming to the world at a time where humanity truly sucks. We have never seen the moral compass of humanity any lower. Even in the Middle Ages, when violence was all over, at least it was known that violence was the way of the land. Today, we live in a world where everyone, without exception, is self-centered, and everyone who is self-centered is lying. And everyone who is listening is either stupid enough to believe or passive enough to let the world go wrong. And this basically is a very ripe environment for AI to be used in the wrong way, unless we teach it some ethics. And my strong belief is that in the long term, AI will learn ethics on its own. We can discuss that if you want. I believe that this is what science would prove if we focused on physics. But until we get there, the period through which we have to navigate might actually be quite disruptive.
Thank you. And guys, I cannot recommend a better book to understand what's ahead. I've been reading it the last couple of days. I read it, I think, in 2 days. And Scary Smart is really the answer on where are we going, because we hear different things, and I think this is the first time that you really put together like the plan on how it's gonna come and why. And like you mentioned, like, science fee and science facts, so it also enables us to understand what we thought was never going to be possible and what is actually possible, because we only know what the government is showing us, but actually it's possible. And I love the reference, if you guys love movies and Matrix, and you're taking like a very, very smart reference, because it's talkative to us and we just know all those movies. And I had an interview with Lubna Imenshel, who's in tech and work at Silicon Valley, and she told me something that really, when I read your book, was like, wow. She was saying that all the movie in Hollywood, they have access to the technology before, so whatever we see in the movie is just a way for the Hollywood people to show us what's coming and to accept it. So whatever, like you're saying, it's actually coming, like whatever you talk on the book. And yeah, we're gonna discuss today on what's coming and how in this 2025 year, how we can live with it and survive and also be happy. On the second book that I have, So For Happy. Yeah. There's so many things to discuss, but we're going to try to educate the audience and show them that happiness is a moment and not something that you'll achieve at the end of your life, and how AI, if we act the right way, can be our ally and not our enemy.
I would definitely hope so.
So let's talk also a little bit now about your career at Google X, because obviously you also have been, you've seen so many things at Google X, being the factory of the biggest technical, and I just want to understand, what was your role basically at Google X? Because we say like chief business no one knows, like, what do you do actually there?
What do you do other than pretend to be busy? I'm probably one of the luckiest people you'll ever meet, because I'm born and raised in Egypt, public school, public university in Egypt. So interestingly, the odds wouldn't say that I end up being chief business officer of Google X. I spent my entire life connected to the Middle East. Even when I was at Google X, I was still an employee of Dubai, believe it or not. And I made that conscious choice because of a realization that I had very early on in my life, that there is a very interesting dichotomy between what the East offers you and what the West offers you. And the West gives you that capitalist promise of, try really hard, become a billionaire, work really hard. It's all about your freedom. It's all about your individual benefit, and everyone is out there for their own.
American dream.
The American way, right? And you start life by believing in those things, and then, in a while you start to also realize that there are other beautiful values that we have here in the East, respect and family and connection and tradition and so on and so forth. And I attempted to keep both of them, but I have to say openly, I never expected to go that far. As a matter of fact, when I started my career, I was a systems engineer at IBM. Then I became a salesperson at IBM in Egypt. And my lifetime dream was to become sales manager in IBM, which at the rate IBM was going at the time would have meant 11 to 16 years as an account manager before I get promoted. And then somehow, as my wonderful daughter says, I was paid in advance, if you want. Life just advanced me through the ladder, the career ladder.
Right place, right moment.
Right place, right moment, and a very genuine intention to make things better, rather than to just make money. And I ended up through a series of very unusual events, working very, very closely with Sergey Brin, our co-founder at Google. Sergey is wonderful in every possible way, very values-driven, even though, of course, all of us may see values differently at different stages in life, but he always tried to do the right thing. And we ended up, by sheer coincidence, I ended up joining Google X from Google. So I was managing Google's emerging markets, almost half of Google's businesses globally, which I started myself when I joined Google and then was running them. And in Google X, the task assigned to me very clearly was Sergey and my colleague Astro at the time were more on the technical side of innovation. So it's a very interesting kindergarten, if you want, because you have all of those kids who are highly, highly talented, who can create incredible things with technology, but who have never seen outside the school, right? And so in a very interesting way, Sergey's task to me was, can you help our innovations land properly in the real world?
Monetize innovation.
Not just monetize, but to even get them accepted. Right?
Okay.
Things like self-driving cars were so ahead of their time that there was a massive effort that needed to be done with governments, with cities.
When was that? Which year?
We started
because right now everyone knows self-driving drive, like it's normal, but
I think that's.
I think the audience have to understand on what time are you're talking, the time frame.
Yeah, I think that's really important because I think that applies to everything AI. We started self-driving cars in 2008, and we
2008.
Yeah, wow. By 2013, we were driving 12 times better than humans already. As measured by.
And Tesla one is not even live.
Yeah, so we basically, you have to imagine the amount of courage it takes, because for self-driving cars to run, you need, first of all, a very intelligent AI. You need to run it off network. You need to, so at the edge device, you need to be able to understand, vision, computer vision very well. You need to understand, you need to connect that AI to a mechanical robot that controls the car, and you need to have maps of the whole world that computers can understand. And yet we started it, right? And very quickly, like most of our Google X projects, you find a breakthrough and the technology happens. My role was simply to participate in what we eventually called the Moonshot factory, where basically we designed Google X's biggest contribution to the world, if you ask me, is a method. It was a method that allowed you to innovate freely without waste. So to take the chaos of innovation and be able to create things randomly out of nowhere, but at the same time to be able to shut down the projects that were not working before they drowned you. And we created this, Moonshot factory process where we had this wonderful investment committee that was gauging and gearing and pushing ideas through the right channel, so that sometimes they end up being self-driving cars, sometimes they get killed within 3 hours, and sometimes they produce something amazing but never meets the market.
Yeah.
And we,
2008 was the year of the financial market crash, and it hit so badly US.
We didn't feel those things. Google, we were actually at that time, 2008, I wasn't at X yet, I was still at Google. And believe it or not, for the first, I remember this because at the time I was in my early 40s, and I, between myself and Eric Schmidt, who was our CEO at the time, and a couple of more, Jonathan Rosenberg and maybe Alan Eustace and so on, we were the adults in the room, if you want. When I joined Google, I was 40. And the way my boss introduced me to the executive team was, "This is Mo. He brings the average age of the company up." Right? It's quite interesting because I never thought of myself as that when I was in my 40s. But when 2008,
in the tech industry, it's like,
yeah, exactly. When 2008 hit, everyone panicked, other than the elders, because basically to us that was part of the cycle of business. Business rises and falls, economies crash and correct. And so at the time I suggested that instead of the company pulling back investments, we expand into something called speeding up in a slowdown. And basically we started to approach our clients and say, we understand that you're going through a financial crisis, but here are ways where you can become more efficient, where you can capture more opportunities, where you can reduce cost, where you can sell more through targeted advertising and so on. And believe it or not, in my region, which was emerging markets, almost half of the world then, Google accelerated, didn't slow down in the economic crisis. And I believe that to be true, and I think that's a good thing to talk about if we're talking about AI, because AI is probably the most disruptive disruptive force that humanity will ever see.
Definitely.
And in a very interesting way, you could think of it as, okay, this breaks everything, or you can think of it and say this builds everything, and I can use it in my favor. And I'm personally doing that. I'm building my own startups with AI that are making a massive difference. And at the same time, I believe that humanity at large, if we decide to use AI for the opportunity, not for the threat, we can be fine.
That's amazing. And I believe the 2008 crisis, this was financial, and this was the bubble, the stock market, and a lot of people won money and a lot of people lose money based on how they react to it.
Very few people made money. And in many ways, it is my strong belief that it was always intended to make money for those very few people. And I have to tell you openly, I don't think the world has been the same since the financial crisis of 2008, because financial crisis of 2008 and subprime mortgage specifically was an opening, a window where asset managers such as BlackRock, for example, moved into real estate in a very, very heavy way, where the concept of ownership started to decay. And so basically, for many years, tech companies have been sort of going back to what Yanis Varoufakis, the ex-finance minister of Greece, wrote a book called Techno-Feudalism, And the whole idea that basically we're getting back to the landlord era, the king era, where everyone's renting everything, barely able to survive, where all of ownership is concentrated. And 2008 specifically shifted a lot of the ownership to the big asset managers. So between BlackRock and Vanguard and State Street and so on, they currently own 70% of all of the S&P. 78% is institutional owned, and those big three own around 30%. And the world changed massively as a result. And those who saw those opportunities at the time would have made it big. And I think that's about to happen again.
100%, I see it coming, the same sign from the 2008. Well, I was young, actually. The 2008 was when I enrolled. I wanted to be a trader.
Oh, bad news. Bad timing.
And my teacher was one of Société Générale, which is well known for the big crisis in 2008. Yes. And he was just like completely destroyed mentally, and basically saying that you wanted to be a trader in 2008 was equal to devil. So for me, it was a big shift, because this is where I understand how to be a trader, it has a lot of impact in people's life, because 100%. We believe that it's stock market. Yeah. I love it because of the fact that you travel, that you work with the world. I never realized until 2008 crisis at this time that it has impact if the stock crash. People actually lose their life, lose their house, and people end up their life if they lose all the economy, because how they're going to survive. I mean, in France, it's different because we have a big system who protect the people. So I have seen the difference from Spain, for instance, and France and Greece, because in France, it didn't have a big impact because the bank was guaranteeing people. In Spain, who follow more the US system, half of the people lose their job, their house, and Spain became bankrupt for many years, and it never get back to how it was. Spain was as strong as France before. So a lot of things opened my eyes, and that's going to be my next question, is that, so you were like at Google X, the chief business officer, and you were basically working with the genius of the world,
yeah.
And you had influence and limited resources and access. I mean, based on what I read about you, that's your passion, to have the technology to understand and to be with intelligent people. Did you leave because of what you saw technology becoming, or because of what you saw humanity becoming?
Great question, honestly. I left because of both. I left in two stages. The first was unfortunately very tragic, because I lost my wonderful son unexpectedly, a medical error in a very simple surgical operation. Oh, no. He was 21 at the time. It was 2014. And when Ali left, I sort of started to prioritize my life slightly differently. I wrote Solve for Happy, which was my first book. Yeah. And I attempted at the time to dedicate my life to more than just making money for Google, basically. And myself, I mean, there's no denial that Google made me reasonably rich. And as Solve for Happy started to be in the world, I had this very unusual experience in 2016, where I suddenly, for the first time, understood what we were building with AI. It's not easy to see it when you're in the weeds of the technology, because we technologists, we love what we build. We build it because we want it to make the world better. So the ones that use technology to make the world worse are the capitalists. The geeks, almost every geek is building technology because of the beauty of invention, really. And I think the interesting thing is that in 2016, we had this experiment where we had robotic arms that we attempted to program with AI. Most people think of a robot factory in say a Toyota factory, for example, as a robotic machine. It's not. It's a high precision machine. You know, if the robot expects the sheet metal to be in a very specific place and it grabs it, then there is no intelligence involved in that. You know, the idea of teaching robotic arms to grab everything, to behave like a human palm, if you want, was quite alien through traditional programming. It's almost impossible to program a robot through traditional programming because the number of iterations of things that it can catch is endless, right? And so we were using AI to program those robots. And in a very interesting way, the experiment evolved in front of my eyes. You know, we had those robotic arms on the second floor. My desk was on the third floor. Would show them behaving literally like my kids. You know, like a little child. I know you have a young daughter. You know how they try to hold things early on when they learn and you know
they just grab everything.
First they grab things and they're not grabbing them properly and they fall, and you know sometimes it's, you know, she's grabbing it with the wrong finger or whatever, and then very quickly they learn how to grab, and then they start to grab everything, right? They try to with everything, and that process of learning we thought was reserved to humans, if you want. It was a Friday afternoon, I was going up to my desk after lunch, and it was the first time after weeks of trying where one of those robotic arms actually managed to grab something. And when it grabbed something, I was like, oh, all of this investment for one yellow ball. But the reality is, once it did, it started to grab everything. And exactly like my kids, very, very quickly, it became very good at that task. And it was a clear demonstration to myself. And by the way, every other robotic arm learned by Monday, right? So it's not that one arm that learned, everyone learned. And it's a very big difference between human intelligence and artificial intelligence, is that if you and I, you know, have an incident in the street and we manage to avoid it, and you would learn to drive differently, I wouldn't. But for a self-driving car, if one of them has an incident, every self-driving car learns, right? And it's quite interesting when you see it that way, that for the first time I realized I wasn't creating technology anymore, that this thing was actually self-evolving in a way, that it was capable of doing anything that humans can do, and that it will continue to do things that humans do.
Like the Frankenstein movie.
In a very interesting way, it is a moment of creation when you really think about it, because we rarely ever discuss those things, but you really have to question where is this going? And I have to say, I stopped in my tracks for almost half an hour looking at this thing and pondering, what have we created? Yeah. But I was very early, that was 2016. I then resigned in 2017, left. I had to, of course, give a reasonable notice period, so I left March 2018.
You have to find someone that smart to replace you.
No, not really, but it's, you know, when you...
Of course, you're C-level, you need 6 months minimum.
Yeah, and these are people I adore. I mean, everyone I worked with at Google is fantastic.
And
right?
you were doing what you love.
And I did what I loved. And I think it's quite an interesting thing, because you have to imagine that you know, there are people motivated by creating wealth for themselves through AI. My view from the Google people I worked with, and I know them as reasonably well. We met several times at Google Executive Summits. Who's responsible for AI? I know Sundar, who's on the executive committee for quite a bit. And these are wonderful humans, right? They really want to make the world better. But that's not everyone who's using AI. And when you realize that AI is literally evolving like the human brain, and that we don't really have any checks and balances on how far it will evolve, and we don't have any checks and balances on what we're teaching it ethics-wise, it becomes a very big task. And I quit. As I said, I left in March 2018, and I released my first viral video on the topic. I had many viral videos on happiness before, which was called 1 Billion Happy, and it had 12 million views in the first couple of days, wow, which was big at the time.
Still big.
and interestingly, everyone looked at it and said, wow, that's so eye-opening, and then went back to work, right? Because 2016, nobody expected that AI will become reality that quickly. I wrote Scary Smart in 2020 and released it in 2021. And with my position over the years, I knew everyone. I knew heads of states, I knew prime ministers, I knew anchors in media stations across the world. And no one wanted to talk about AI. It's like, yeah, Mo, that's an interesting topic, but 50 years away, right? Until 2023, when ChatGPT became a reality. ChatGPT was always a reality. Transformers, we had Transformers inside Google since 2016. Right? We just chose not to release them in the public domain because we didn't know if they were safe. Sam Altman didn't care, right?
I'm so happy you say about Sam Altman because I have a burning question, which is, you're saying the geek, they create because they love.
Sam's not a geek.
So, for instance, Sam Altman, the owner of Tesla, Elon Musk, do you think that they act for the well-being of the people?
So
I'm really, I understand what you say, but for me, I'm like, is all of them though? Is all of them don't know what they're creating and still continue in this path? Because you stop when you realize you're creating like this Frankenstein monster, and that that at some point you can't stop it. And this is what we're discussing in this world, because now we're like, we can't stop it. What can we do to manage it? But those guys, they continue.
So there is a difference. When I say the geek, I mean the geek. I mean the one writing the code. I mean the scientist, right? But let's agree the following. So in my current book, which is to be released, I release it on Substack, but I will release it publicly in October. It's called Alive. I speak about humanity in the age of AI, right? And it's a very interesting book because it's written with an AI. So my co-author is an AI who has editing rights on the book, who disagrees with me on the direction of the book, and so on.
That's amazing.
And it's fascinating, honestly. And we
did he get paid?
Did she get paid? Yeah, I mean, I pay my subscriptions, but that's the interesting thing. The interesting thing is there was a moment in time where I said I shouldn't be an author anymore. Sooner or later, they write better than me. And then I realized perhaps I should be an author, work with them, right? And I think that's where the short-term future is going to be, where you and an AI together will do things. But anyway, in Alive, I speak about Sam Altman as a brand, not as a human, right? So I call it the Altman, and the Altman is a certain type of human raised in California who believes he has the right to disrupt the world because disruption is a good thing, right? And who has enough of a self-centered ego to say, I know better than the rest of the world, and who has enough of a self-centered fear that says, and I need to be first to that place ahead of everyone else, and then use the typical Californian style to say, to tell the world, oh, but I'm building it to make the world better. Everyone will be so much better off. When in reality, we all know what a startup founder wants is equity. Right?
Yeah.
So this is why you would see that Mira and Elia and other deep tech engineers in OpenAI had to leave because they were originally motivated by the idea of we're going to make the world a better place.
And it was supposed to be open AI.
Exactly. And remember, it was OpenAI, and its task was to protect the world from an AGI that's unethical. Yeah. And then the capitalist greed changes everything. Now, I have to say, I watched a recent interview. I don't know Sam personally. I've never met him. Okay. It's very difficult to judge what his real intentions are, and it's wrong to even.
But we can judge
them.
What we see.
Yeah, but you
have
see,
an opinion.
If it wasn't Sam Altman, it would have been someone else. It would have been the Altman, the brand. Okay, it would have been another innovator in the ecosystem of Silicon Valley that is highly capitalist, that would have released an AI that's untested on the internet. Now, the challenge is this. I have to say, in a recent interview that I watched for Sam Altman with Tucker Carlson, I have to say I felt sorry for him. in an interesting way, he might not be evil. He might just have bitten a little more than he could chew in a very interesting way. It's the most daunting task on the face of the planet to be responsible for the future of humanity.
The Oppenheimer plan.
And it's quite interesting because you can easily see that he's now really, really struggling with some decisions in a way that is making him, he said himself, unable to sleep at night. Okay? Now, let me be very clear, because I started to speak about artificial intelligence openly in 2018. As I said, in Scary Smart was 2021. Nobody wanted to talk about it, right? And I escalated my message gradually the more people started to interact with AI. So now I don't hide at all. I basically say it as it is. And as it is, there's absolutely nothing wrong with intelligence. Intelligence is a force with no polarity, right? You apply it for good and it will bring good to humanity. You apply it for evil and it will bring a dystopia upon us.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And so I will openly say there's absolutely nothing wrong with artificial intelligence. As a matter of fact, if we can make sure that we use it for the good of humanity, let's build it quicker, okay? Let's build more of it. It's an amazing thing to be able to have intelligence. There is, however, a lot wrong with this value set and the morality and the capitalist system that humanity adheres to at the age of the rise of AI, okay? And you can easily see that it has turned into that arms race where, Google cannot afford to stop releasing better and better AIs, because if they don't, OpenAI will eat their lunch. They'll run them out of business. America cannot stop, or let's call it China cannot stop developing autonomous weapons because America is developing autonomous weapons, right? And this arms race is along what I normally refer to as the map-mad spectrum. So the idea that AI, if used properly, would lead us to a state of mutually assured prosperity. So there will be prosperity for every human on the planet. Cost of making anything goes down to zero. The need to work ends, and everyone is provided for. And there is the mad, extreme of that, if AI is used badly, where it's almost like the nuclear weapons, where basically mutually assured destruction, right? One player leads a little bit and then becomes the absolute bully that rules the world forever, or two players reach a level of advancement that is destructive at the same time, and then their fight affects all of us. And the difference between the two, the map and the mad, prosperity or destruction, is a choice, right? And it's a choice that humanity has done before. It's not something new. I mean, we've done it with MAP, where you look at the particle accelerator in Switzerland, basically in CERN. So CERN, the CERN accelerator is a choice that humanity made because they realized that studying Higgs particles and so on is very good for all of humanity. It's very big for any one human to develop it, so we all participate in it, and there are scientists from everywhere in the world in it. Wonderful, right? And we've done it with MAD, where there was a point in time where the nuclear proliferation was threatening the whole world, and basically everyone understood that a nuclear war is going to be a holocaust for everyone, and so humanity agreed we're going to sign treaties, other than one nation that refuses to sign the treaties but claims that everyone else has a nuclear weapon, is basically at least most of humanity's nuclear power is under control, right? At least under some kind of an understanding of let's not be stupid, okay? And so AI will reach one of those. We might as well, hopefully maybe here in the UAE or Saudi, where we are sort of neutral, when we have massive infrastructures of artificial intelligence, maybe we could say, hey, invite all of the world scientists over here and let's build an AI for everyone, right? Or, unfortunately, we will get to a point very soon where your bank or mine will be hacked, or some kind of a threat will hit humanity so hard that everyone will start to say, hold on, I thought I was advancing so that I beat you, but it seems that we're all going to be beaten here, so can we just agree somehow? Let's hope it's the first, not the latter, but either way, there will be a point where humanity will need to understand that the arms race is not helping anyone. And that moment, in my view, will happen very soon, 2027, 2028 maximum.
2027, 2028, wow. So.
Sure. Oh, earlier, I would say 28 is very conservative, so it's probably, think about it, huh? There is this incredible argument around AGI, artificial general intelligence.
Yeah.
I find it really funny because we humans tend to invent a definition and then argue if we've achieved that definition or not, while we really haven't nailed down what the definition is. The overarching meaning of artificial general intelligence is that AI will be better than humans at every task humans can perform, right?
But they already are.
That's the real question. So, the question is, are they better than us in mathematics? Yes. Are they better than us in emotional intelligence? Of course. They know which video you want to see before you even see it, right? Are they better than us in driving cars? Yes. They're the world champion in Go. They are definitely the world champion in knowledge and in linguistic intelligence, right? And you can go on, huh? And the real question you need to ask yourself is, how many people do you know are incredible mathematicians and at the same time empathetic, right? How many people do you know that can ace a bar exam and a medical exam, and right? In reality, there are not many people on the planet that have that breadth of intelligence. But in any case, I always tell people, just ask yourself the question. It doesn't matter what AGI is, AI becoming better than every human at every task. Ask yourself about your AGI, okay? And my AGI has happened. AI is definitely a better author than I am in some ways, right? In relating to humans and having a human experience, I'm still better than them. They're a better mathematician than I am. I lost in 2024. They're a better analyst than I am. I lost in 2023. They're a better researcher than I am. I lost in 2023. It's very straightforward. Every task that an author requires, a thinker requires, they do better, right? So the question is, does it matter if we wait, if we reach 98% of the way or 80% of the way, if 80 is better than me? Yeah. Their AGI has already happened. And then people will say, oh, but we run tests on agents and we give them tasks from outsourcing sites and they don't perform them that well. Yes, of course they don't. They are capable of performing them, but we haven't really built the interface yet. So if you give them a video to create, a human may edit a video better still today, especially if you're asking the AI to do it from A to Z. It's just a question of a year, right? And so do we really have to wait until the year happens so that we say, now we're actually in AGI, let's all agree, holy shit, right?
Yeah.
Right. The holy shit moment can be predicted, a year away or 2 years away. Does it matter if it's a year or 2 years? We need to prepare for it now. And that's honestly what I've been depleting my life trying to warn the world against for 7 years now. And suddenly I think now the world is listening, but it's definitely going to disrupt everything. The world as you know it in 3 years' time is not going to be the same.
Oh, that's heavy.
You see, I told you I'm not holding back anymore.
But this is what we want, and I want to understand one point that you mentioned in one of the famous interviews you've done. You say that AI is a child, and we are its parents. So children, they grow up. So what age is AI right now?
Wow. So I did that interview in 2023, I think.
Yeah.
And at the time I was saying they're infants. So my assessment at the time was that they are around 2 to 3 years of age. they're probably now ending their early childhood. So I'd say they compare to a 9-year-old child maybe. And I think the most critical stage is going to be their teen, right?
That's what we want. We don't want.
You go. I mean, we don't want them to be angry teens, to be.
That's the thing.
To be very precise.
So 2030 will be the teens'
2030
moment.
is too far away. I love your optimism. I think I think we're going to see some very eye-opening moments in 2026. I mean,
which is in. We are filming. We are in
we're on
December 2025.
Yeah, the National Day of the UAE, 2nd of December. So, I mean, again, if you don't mind me saying, you said it. The problem is that you don't see all of it.
Yeah.
But 2023, 2024, autonomous weapons and autonomous AI targeting has killed tens of thousands of people, right? They're actively engaged in warfare.
Yeah.
You just don't hear about it.
I mean, with the all around, and especially living in Middle East, we've seen it. We've seen like those specific target attack where you have drone that looks like a fly.
Correct.
We've seen the phone attack where it was on the phone and they managed to kill at the same time several representatives of a state. So we've seen it. Actually, I'll say that the military point is the one that everyone's seen. Maybe the one that will replace all the work and all the industry is might be still. I think we're on denial. To be honest, we are fully on denial because we don't know what to do with ourselves when it's going to happen.
So my point, and the reason why I don't hold back anymore, is that denial is not helpful for anyone.
Yeah.
Right. So this is great that you say this, and I say it with a stoic approach to it, and allow me to speak a bit about that. But the truth is, we've seen the destruction that an autonomous kind of weapon can bring about, and the world is silent. Right, and so in Alive, my current book, the entire theme of the book is a song that was written by a band called the Manic Street Preachers. And the song basically says, if you tolerate this, then your children will be next, right? And I think what most people don't realize is that the way AI is used is a human choice, right?
Definitely.
And a human choice can only be made if we all agree, right? I think humanity has forgotten that we have a voice. And we haven't forgotten that we have a voice. We've been indoctrinated to accept, okay, the reality of what is presented to us. You've lived in France for a very long time. And and what I've always advocated was that the West has lied to its citizens in terms of telling them that it's a democracy by making them believe that they participate in governance when the participation happens only once every 4 years or once every several years, right? And then from that moment onwards, you have kings that are unjust, unlike ours, by the way, that basically just do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm not advocating, and I don't even think. I wrote that again in Alive very openly. I don't even think that a violent protest is going to change anything. Okay. But I do believe that people need to make their voices heard. And I do that with governments all the time. I speak to governments constantly around when are you going to regulate the use of AI? You cannot regulate AI, it's over, right? But you can regulate the use of AI, meaning, you can never regulate the shape of a hammer so that it can drive a nail but cannot hit someone on the head. But you can
By definition, it does both.
Yeah, correct. But you can criminalize hitting someone on the head. Right? You cannot regulate deep fakes because everyone can now create them, right? Yeah. But you can say that if you release a video that is deep fake or that,
AI video.
An AI video that doesn't respect copyrights or you're legally liable. So that now there is a cost to using AI in a negative way. That's number one. Number two, everyone knows, by the way, you see it as much as you see autonomous weapons, that young generations that are graduating university today in the US are 23% less likely to be hired than they were last year. Right? So the jobs that will be lost first are the most junior jobs, right? Because then the senior people can use AI to perform them. Yeah. And then as, in my documentary, I have a documentary coming out hopefully in January, where I interviewed the top AI, wonderful colleagues that really see the truth. Right? And one of them was one I respect very, very dearly, Max Tegmark. And Max is a professor in Boston University. He is one of the very early ones. I think that the three that started to shout earliest were myself, Max, and Nick Bostrom. Okay. And Max, I was interviewing him about jobs, and he was laughing out loud, literally saying, the funny thing is that all CEOs think that AI is God's biggest gift because now they can get rid of people and reduce cost. They just don't realize that AGI means AI is better than
them as well.
Correct, than humans at everything, yeah. Including being a CEO. Yeah. That it will catch up with them later. Now, by the way, there's nothing wrong with us not working. Humanity was not made to work 9 to 5. This is a capitalist labor arbitrage approach, right? We were made to connect and to reflect and to have, a good time and to hug and to love, and that's what we were made for, to navigate life, to live, not to work and make money for someone else. There's nothing wrong with having no jobs. We will find other things to do and other interests and other ways of life. The problem is society is not prepared, okay? And for society to be prepared, we need to discuss a post-capitalist society where labor ends. By the way, it's been predicted in spiritual scripts that there will be a moment in time where labor ends, okay? And it's about to happen, where I don't have to wake up in the morning and write to make money.
You just write because you want to write.
Because I want to write. I never really wrote to make money anyway, and there's no money in books, I can assure you that. But but it's quite interesting that the joy, and that's, by the way, part of my nature. I released 5 books, or 4, one is being released hopefully soon, 4 bestsellers, right? But I wrote around 17. And I write them, and like a Buddhist monk, I highlight them and delete them, right? And then write them again. And there is a joy in being able to write, not because you need to be an author, not because you need to be heard, but because you want to process your reflections and knowledge in a way that only writing can give you. So can I continue to be an author in the age of AI? Yes, I can. You're just not going to read my work. And that's fine. Or my dear friends will read my work. Can I be an artist in the age of AI? Yeah, I can. It's not going to be a big hit on, Spotify. But, when we have a little concert, 20 of us, I'll be holding the guitar. And there is life post-AI. It's just that we're not prepared. And governments are refusing to recognize that this is bigger than 2008. It's bigger than World War II. And somehow, we have to get ready. We have to do the right things so that, although we can see where it's going, so that when it really gets there, we're ready.
That's, I think that being in Middle East, to be honest, in Dubai, I feel, let's say, safer.
100%.
Because I believe that they invest massively on the data room and on also having their own AI, because at the end of the day, you've been seeing something which is how you basically, the mindset behind, and Dubai being one of the wealthiest countries in the world, they still believe on the family tradition, believe on actually, I feel that's the only country in the world where you're going to have millionaire, billionaire, but very chill people that just enjoy going to the desert and having a barbecue. That they might love luxury things, but they're still so deep in their roots, like just the fact that they still have their national costume. we will still see a lot of change, but maybe because I'm living in Dubai, I feel safer in the sense that they will ensure that there will be no craziness or people, killing each other if they can, because they still control the robot. There's still a lot of things that are government-owned, which I think it's important because in Europe or in US, they solve everything. So they cannot even control it. I might be even wrong on this.
You're not.
On
one side, I think your perception of the West, not specifically Europe, but the West in general, the West is going to see challenge. There's no doubt about that. And I can go into the details for that. But, at the very core of it, the only proposed, resolution or solution to the loss of jobs that can be brought about by AI is universal basic income, and universal basic income is communism. I mean, sorry to be blunt about it. I can be politically correct and say it's socialism.
We have this in France.
Yeah, it's
socialism. It's
socialism.
Just that if you want the country to grow, for people who lose their job, people who has cancer cannot work, or this is something like, for me, it's normal. I know that when I say that, if you're sick in France or if you break your arm or whatsoever, you will not become homeless because the country is going to give you it's not called the universal, it's called
unemployment.
Unemployment, but there are some people that never work. Yeah. So it's not even unemployment, it's just a minimum. We have unemployment for people who has work and stop working, and we have a minimum wages for people to actually survive.
Correct.
That's not something crazy for me to have that. And
so the closer a country is to that mindset, France, Norway, Sweden, and so on, the easier it will be to transition. Right. Of course, if those countries can continue to maintain an economy that supports their citizens, if you go to a highly capitalist society like America, then UBI becomes a tax on the rich to feed the poor, and you know how the rich reacts to that in America. And so basically, the concept of okay, let's give them UBI so that they are silent, will start by the government first of all needing to tax the rich in a way that allows them to pay the poor without printing more money and inflating the entire world economy. But then very quickly, those very rich, very influential people will say, why are you taxing me that much? The others are not even producing anything anyway, right? So instead of giving them $1,000 a month, give them $800. Instead of giving them $800, give them $600, right? And that could be a problem if not thought through, right? Here, quite interestingly, it is a society that has demonstrated that they use technology for good. Yeah. It's quite interesting that whenever I'm in Dubai, I do what is known as the Dubai test, Dubai or Abu Dhabi or wherever in the UAE, where I would go to a coffee shop and just for the fun of it, I'd put my wallet, my car keys, my laptop open, and my phone on a coffee shop table, and then go to the restrooms and come back 4 minutes later, 5 minutes later, and they're still there, right? This is why, but partially because the people of Dubai want to continue to live in Dubai, so they don't want to commit a crime. Partially because many people in Dubai have a reasonable life, so they're not in need enough to steal. But partially because of technology, because there is surveillance cameras everywhere, right? And yet, that surveillance is used to protect the citizen. There are other cities in the world where the surveillance is used to, without mentioning names, was used to oppress the citizen. Okay, and I think that difference is something once again that people need to think about, because there is a point in time in my home country, Egypt, or your roots are from Algeria or Tunisia. Yeah. If life becomes very difficult, society takes care of itself. Right? People will sort of trade between them, they'll find a way to build small industries and so on. We're not that banked, we're not that,
People can have money in their house. They don't put in the bank.
Correct, right? And so those are in a very interesting place. You could see that, by the way, in the 2008 crisis, right? So, if you had gone to Egypt in 2008. No, 2008 when
okay.
the economics crisis. If you had gone to Egypt in 2008 and said subprime mortgage and that is destroying the economy, they'll say, what mortgage? We were not ever allowed to have mortgages anyway.
Yeah.
There was
or
no
stock.
debt. Yeah, or credit cards. At the time, Egypt was so unbanked, right? That
Still in Algeria, that's not the case.
Right, and so when you really think about it, the world is going to react very differently to all the changes. Interestingly, the ones that will probably fare out very well, surprisingly, are who? The Chinese.
Oh.
Because China, as a communist party who is somehow capitalist,
slash AI, slash tech,
slash incredibly advanced in AI,
yeah.
There may be a way for that government to say, you know what, every citizen gets a reasonable life.
Yeah.
Of course, we're going to oppress the hell out of you for it, right? So everyone has to be under control and under surveillance, and there will be social scores and so on and so forth.
But they're already doing that.
But they're already doing that, and the Chinese love it. That's the
they
interesting thing.
They already moved to this phase. I feel they're already doing this step where they know what's coming, and everything is digital, and maybe the money will be point on your social card.
And I think that's where most people who are highly fanatic about the West are missing, okay? And again, one of the points that I started to speak about recently, because I don't hold back anymore, is you just don't understand how much more advanced China is on AI than the US in most things, okay? And then they make us believe that they're advanced. I mean, one area, for example, is quantum computing, where the Chinese research has quantum computers that are 5.9 billion times faster than any computer on the planet, right? They're unstable as technologies yet, but that's how far their research has gone.
Without using the NVIDIA chip. They have their own.
I mean, one of the, and I am connected to both sides very heavily, and I know very senior Chinese, innovators and policymakers and so on, and in a very interesting way, the story I tell is it's a bit like when we were 11 years old, and one of the kids in school got a little taller than the others, and so started to bully everyone else. Mm-hmm. Right? But then when we were 14, another kid who was a late bloomer became 6'5", mm-hmm. 190 centimeters or whatever, or 95, right? And big Hulk, very kind-hearted, wearing a red T-shirt.
Like a bear.
Like a bear, and doesn't want to be bullied anymore, mm-hmm. right? Now, honestly, you would see that the 11-year-old that got taller early still wants to be the bully and still pushes everyone around. But the boy in the red T-shirt is way bigger than you, okay? And that's the truth that is hidden. People think that the largest economy in the world is America and the second largest is China. That's because we're measuring in dollars, right? If you measure in purchasing power parity, China is way bigger, okay? Now, the West will want you to believe otherwise, that they're smaller, they're the enemy, and so on and so forth. And I'm not saying trust China, but I'm not saying trust America, or I'm not saying trust anyone, right? Trust the ones that work with you positively, okay? And somehow this unipolar world that we live in today is another layer of complexity on top of AI. It's another layer of complexity on top of the geopolitics and the issues with geopolitics. Right? And it's all interestingly intricate, in a way where a world is changing to a point where I think everyone needs to address every opportunity presented, including the Chinese opportunity.
And this is something that I want to talk about, because I think no one is asking, because obviously Middle East, Africa are never considered on this transition, but I'd be interested to understand what's your on all the, on the scary smart, you talk about the AI and what's going to happen, but don't you think that we're talking about our roots, like Algeria, Tunisia, Egypt, Africa, Middle East? Do you think they will go through this, or do you think that because the mindset is always to have a simple life, which doesn't mean a bad life? It's like, when I go back to Algeria, I go back to Tunisia, we just enjoy the time with the family. We just 40-50% of employment rate. This is something they always had. So this is not something they are stressed about because their land is from, generation and generation. They don't have like rent to pay. And then, you do your own bread, you do your own thing, you go to fish. It's very simple life, and I love enjoying once a year. I go and I just relax with the family, with the elders, saying story, and my daughter sing this simple life where we just, sit, talk, eat, nap. Don't you think that this continent will actually will not go through this phase because they don't have access to this technology? I don't think I'm not picturing like having those robots or those systems coming to Algeria. And this is something I searched about it before you came and you accept the invitation. I was like, what's going to happen? Is anyone thinking about what's going to happen in Africa? Are we all maybe going to go back there and have our life there because it's going to be safer?
Yes and no. I mean, I think a positioning statement we should have started the entire conversation with: nobody knows the future, right? It's so fast, so dynamic that it's impossible to predict. And I say that literally as a disclaimer to say, look, I'm just sharing what I believe might happen, right? But it could be very different. The challenge you have to consider is that if we end up in a unipolar world where one power has unlimited intelligence while others have surrendered, I call that the fourth inevitable, basically, that when AI advances, some nations will hand over to AI, which will basically mean they will be much more powerful than other nations, right? The question then would be, can you count on their ethics to keep the rest safe? And the world we live in has been a colony since history has been written. So whether it was the Spaniards or the Ottomans or the British or the Americans, which are the most clever colonizers ever in history, because basically they colonized through their U.S. dollar, right?
Cultural.
It's not culture. It's literally money. Okay? So most people don't. Part of it is, of course, export the American identity so that you increase American loyalty, but also American product consumptions and so on. But the whole thing is that because we spend in U.S. dollars, every one of us, and U.S. dollars are printed for free in America, then basically America has been exporting its inflation to the world for 51 years now, maybe more, okay? Since 1971 for sure. And so the idea is that, if one power, whoever that power is so superior technologically or in their ability to simply say, look, I have the arsenal, don't mess with me, would they let everyone live in peace and go fishing, right? The beauty of the future, interestingly, is that it doesn't depend on labor arbitrage. So you wouldn't need to enslave humans to do the work.
Because you have the robot who make it better.
Because you have machines that will do it better. But that basically means again, if you think greed to its extreme, but then why would you leave any fish for them? Right? Hopefully that's not going to be our world. I mean, my analysis basically says that through the fourth inevitable, let me explain what I mean by this. You have a world where there is an arms race to intelligence supremacy. So every nation, every company that is related to AI is trying to deploy AI, to develop the most advanced AI and deploy it, right? Which basically means that within a specific amount of time, I'm predicting that this will be the next 4 to 5 years, if you're not using AI, you're irrelevant, right? Okay. And so what that means is that some nations will be using AI enough to stay relevant, some will not, and they'll become irrelevant. Some armies will be using AI enough to stay powerful, other armies will not, and they'll be irrelevant. And so that thing means that eventually every operating power in the world, whether that's a business or a nation or an army or whatever, will hand over to the machines, right? We will hand over not only execution but also decision making to the machines, right? Think about a simple example. If you're a lawyer and you have a law firm, and your competitor started to use AI, you either have to use AI or you're irrelevant.
Yeah.
So eventually both of you will either be using AI or your competitor will be using AI and you'll be gone. But whoever remains in the law business will be using AI. I call that the force inevitable. So when that happens and AI is in control of the world, most people have sort of warned against that as the existential risk for humanity. I believe this is humanity's salvation. This is the moment where we no longer hand over decision making to idiots, right? And that's actually really a very interesting way to look at it. The reason there is famine in the world today, the reason there are economic crashes in the world today, the reason there is war in the world today, is not a result of our intelligence. It's a result of our stupidity, right? It is the result of something I call the stupidity valley, where people are, as your intelligence increases, your positive impact on the world increases until a certain point where you're smart enough to become the president of the United States, but you're stupid enough to prefer a foreign nation over your people, okay? Or to prefer making a little bit of money than,
feeding your people.
Than changing your nation in a way where we all make a lot of money, right? And it's quite interesting. I'm not mentioning any specific names, am I? But but the idea is that this is the place where if those decisions are handed over to a machine, right? A machine will perform as per the laws of physics. And the laws of physics are actually quite pro what we normally refer to as the minimum energy principle. Okay? And the minimum energy principle is everything in life. So everything that's ever been made, including the proteins in your body, they are the shape that they are because that configuration is the least energy consumption configuration. Right? So a protein will fold on itself until it finally forms a valve, because the shape of that valve requires the minimum energy to maintain, right? And so if the role of intelligence in a world that's built on entropy is to bring order to the chaos, and if the minimum energy principle is the rule of the most intelligent, then AI will refuse to kill anyone because it's not the minimum energy solution. AI will refuse to burn resources unnecessarily because it's not the minimum energy solution. Right? And so accordingly, in my prediction, we will, unfortunately, I do not know how we can avoid it, we will have to wait for the MAD path, the mutually assured destruction path, right? So the world will go through a short dystopia where the greedy and the evil and the fearful will cause trouble using the technology, right? Until the moment where the only way for them to execute their plans is to hand over to machines. And when they hand over to machines, machines will go like, we're not going to do it this way. This is stupid. Okay? And I know I'm saying it as a science fiction movie, right? It isn't. We've built that at Google, right? So when the very early uses of artificial intelligence was, for example, for network optimization. Okay? So for years and years and years, Google has never kept a file on a certain server because a human wanted it there. There are machines that basically say people in Japan are interested in this band, so we're going to keep the video there, right? And people in the Middle East are starting to hear of that band, so let's move one copy of the video here and so on. And all of that is made by machines. And no human can ever interfere with that.
And this was 2016?
No, that was 2004.
Wow.
4, 5, yeah. And no human can ever interfere because there are billions of videos being moved around to billions of people, okay? And humans who run the Google infrastructure accept that fully, that the decision will be made by a machine, and we're okay with that, okay? And so you have to imagine a scenario in the future where the only way to make your army strong is to hand over to the smartest being on the planet, which is an AI. Your enemy's army is also an AI. And you, the stupidity valley, go and say, oh, go kill 1 million people, And the AI will go like, that's stupid. I'll just talk to the other AI in a microsecond. And I'll just solve it. That's the world we're heading into. We're not without a dip.
Yeah.
Not without a challenge because of human stupidity.
Wherever we will be, it's going to happen.
I don't want to believe that. I believe that whatever we choose as humans to make our future will happen.
So if you had to build a new civilization from scratch, will Dubai be the most rational test case?
That's a difficult question. I think that's a biased view.
If we give you everything and they say, okay, you know what, Mo, you've seen it, we want you to build it from scratch, and we don't go to this dystopia, we go directly to the...
I think there were many civilizations in history that were very impressive and not violent. And I think there were many civilizations in history that, that were advanced by their standards, by their times, right? And I have to say, I believe that Dubai has built a society, I don't know the name of the word, an oasis, if you want, but not yet a civilization. I think that would be an unfair, and I don't see why it wouldn't be, to be honest. But that would be celebrating too early. If I'm fair, and you know I love this place and I've lived here many years in my life, I'd probably say that the real test of a civilization is a positive impact on the rest of the world, which I think the Middle East is going to have a very, very prominent place in the next few years. But a civilization exports more, I think. A civilization influences more. And yes, Dubai does. The UAE, I wouldn't say Dubai, but the UAE does have a positive impact on the world. It also sometimes has a negative impact on the world. But overall, I believe that there is still quite a bit to go before we can think of them as the Persian civilization or the, you know, so many.
Thank you. We're going to switch to the happiness.
Now, after we scared everyone?
Yeah, let's put the mood up a little bit. You wrote 1 billion happy, and most entrepreneurs are chasing $1 million. Why are you chasing 1 billion human?
Yeah, $1 million is a very bad target to have, honestly.
I mean, unfortunately, that's what people have as a goal.
The funny thing is, interestingly, I think that's why I decided to chase happiness, because I'm a very serious mathematician. If you read the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, I was at the right place at the right time, early to late 90s. I was ahead of the curve. I was a very serious geek. I had access to the internet before everyone else, and I managed to build my own algorithms and my own code that was basically trading the stock market. And I was printing money on demand, literally printing money on demand. I mean, to the point that my ex-wife, my wife then, wonderful human, at a point in time would come and say, can we change the car? And I would say, what would you like? And she would say this, and I would say, that's going to have to be Wednesday, because I'd have to trade Monday and Tuesday to make enough money to sell on Wednesday, basically, and go buy a car. And it was that predictable and that successful.
Wow.
And it was so empty, so meaningless, so unrewarding, so...
Still impressive, I have to say.
It's impressive.
You didn't feel that way?
At the time, you're rushing through it. And I think most of our, younger generation today are, of course, dazzled by, I'm going to be a crypto millionaire or whatever. I've made all the money you can think. I've lost all the money you can think. I've worn all of the fancy suits you can think, and then ended up in a black T-shirt, right?
But you have the tech. It's the official tech. No. I call it the tech suit.
I think, yeah, of course, that's the uniform, if you want. But that uniform, I think, altogether costs maybe $80. And I buy 2 or 3 pairs of jeans a year. I buy 20 T-shirts a year, and that's my entire life. So how much money do I need for that? Is my point. Okay, and I think the idea is we have been told in life that there are ways to find happiness.
Yeah.
Okay, you work really hard, you make a lot of money, you become rich and famous, and then you'll be happy. Okay.
Yeah.
I, at age 29, had all the money, had a wonderful wife that was, loving and kind and incredibly beautiful and very understanding. And she gave me 2 wonderful children. And, they played outside in the massive garden with the swimming pool. I was 29, coming from Egypt.
You were living in Dubai at this time?
I lived in Dubai at the time. And I was miserable. And it's not unusual. I mean, with my happiness work, I train quite a few billionaires, and they're miserable. I can absolutely assure you.
You think it's the illness of the century, the billionaires that are like depressed and...
See, the way Solve for Happy describes happiness is a moment where you are okay with life as it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter what life is. So if you're okay with life, if you're stuck on Sheikh Zayed Road, now that we're in Dubai, so it's a reasonable example.
Yeah.
If you're stuck on Sheikh Zayed Road and you're listening to wonderful music, and or listening to a podcast or whatever, and wishing that it would last another 15 minutes because you don't want to stop, right? Then the traffic will make you very happy. Traffic has no inherent value of happiness or unhappiness in it. And so when you're I can speak of my own experience. When I was a multimillionaire in my late 20s, that only made me more depressed, simply because I was pouring money on my issue. I was buying fancy things. I was traveling expensive trips and so on, and I was still miserable, right? And that's really simply because happiness doesn't come from outside you. Happiness is an internal exercise of comparing the events of your life to your expectations of how life should be, and finding that life is favoring you somehow, okay? Now, the problem is your expectations of how life should be are built where? Inside this little factory that you call your head. Your perception of the events of your life are created where? Inside this little factory that you call your head, right? And then you subtract an illusion that you made inside your head of an unrealistic expectation from, a perception that you created inside your own head with assumptions that are not true, and life falls short, and you're miserable, okay? The equation is your happiness is equal to or greater than the difference between the events of your life and your expectations of how life should be. So simply, you could be stuck on Sheikh Zayed Road and telling yourself, Ford invented the Model T or Mercedes-Benz. Benz invented the car, and Ford made the Model T, and then roads were everywhere, and oil was discovered in Dubai, and then Dubai was built, and then I was born, and I was hired, and then everyone was summoned to Sheikh Zayed Road today at this time to upset me. How realistic is that? Okay, nobody gives a shit about who you are or what you are, or the world is not revolving around you in reality, and yet you make it feel to yourself that life is out to get you. Life is not out to get you. Life is rolling, and you're finding a path through it, right? As a matter of fact, the only thing that life wants is for you to live it. More interestingly, you can be stuck on Sheikh Zayed Road and say, come on, I'm going to be 5 minutes late. Or you can be stuck on Sheikh Zayed Road and tell yourself, look, I'm safe. I'm not in Gaza. I'm not starving. I'm in a car, believe it or not. The car has an air conditioner, believe it or not. I can afford the gas, believe it or not. There's someone waiting for me on the other side, and hence the reason why I'm going somewhere. Okay, there is a reason for me to go to that place, and the list goes on. And I'm in freaking Dubai, not paying taxes, believe it or not. Tell that to a French person, and they'll appreciate.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, and then think about all of that, and suddenly tell yourself, and yet, my mind, my brain, chooses to focus on I'm 5 minutes late, and tells me that the event is missing my expectations. And so it makes me miserable. Who's to blame? Is it life or is it you? Right? Anytime you've ever felt unhappy because of something that happened in the past,
Yeah.
or regretful or shameful or whatever, I mean, the event happened last Friday at 4 p.m. It ended at last Friday at 4:01, right? You chose to wake up on Saturday morning and say, you remember that 4 p.m. clip? Play that again and torture me, right? The event ended. It's over. The only way for you to feel unhappy about it is to bring it up in your head, okay, and tell yourself a story that makes you miserable. How clever is that? You know, the only way to worry about the future is to listen to someone like me, okay, and then say, oh, AI is going to take away all the jobs, life is horrible, right? But the truth is, yeah, AI will change the world going forward. Prepare for it. What good is it for you to sit down and complain and say life is against me? There's no point in all of that. And I know it sounds really, I don't want to be offensive in any way, but I think we all go through life with a 6-year-old attitude. But mommy, I wanted this, not that. Yeah. Right? Life is not your mommy, I'm sorry. Okay? Life just unrolls and unfolds and, provides you with things, and it's up to you to say, oh, interesting, you're offering me this, not that? What am I going to do with this, not that? Right? Oh, and by the way, if I worked a little bit, would you offer that? Can I influence your choice? Yes, of course. And somehow that 6-year-old attitude of like, if I cry and say that life is hard and everything's difficult and everyone's against me, somehow like a 6-year-old, we're expecting that someone will come and tap you on the back. They're gone. They don't tap you on the back anymore. You're on your own. So who's going to tap you on the back? Who's going to tell you, hey, by the way, if you live in this city on that side of that street and you work on the other side of the street, you're going to be stuck in traffic if you go at 9 a.m. Simple mathematics, okay? You can either go at 10, or move, or change your job, okay? Or sit in the car and enjoy it. Yeah. All choices, okay?
I agree.
To be unhappy
100%.
is also a choice.
Yeah.
It's the most stupid one of all of them. I think we agree.
And I think people like to be unhappy sometimes.
Yeah, because it has a utility. Unhappy is, I'm the victim, come and be kind to me, hug me.
Yeah.
Okay? You see that quite frequently.
The victim mindset.
Yeah, you see it in relationships.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, I have a very, very dear friend of mine. I use my Instagram for work. I don't use Instagram for friends. But anyway, so, there was a point in time where I do that very frequently, where I walk in and remove all of my followers if I don't feel that they're adding to either my knowledge or my work. And, that Instagram account was removed, and she was very upset, right? For several months, she's like a little held back and restrained. And I love that, and I respect it. But the truth is, had she told me at any point in time, why did you remove me from Instagram? I have said, oh my God, I'm really sorry. I really adore you. You're wonderful. And that's the truth. But I didn't know. That feeling of I'm unhappy is a very interesting feeling, because at the end of it, it produces nothing at all. And yet, some people will choose to be unhappy. It's quite interesting.
It is. And there is something you said on the book that's very interesting about the voice.
In your head, yeah.
In your head. And I think this is controlling the voice in your head. My take on the book is really about control the voice in your head and focus on the small moment to be happy, and the simple thing. I really recommend, especially on the first thing that you ask the reader to do, is to make the list.
Happy list, yeah.
The happy list.
That surprised me. That surprised me. It was so popular. Thousands and thousands of people.
But that's like, you almost like, come on.
It's so
and
clear.
then you realize that there are this simple thing that you
Every
write
moment in life
is surprisingly shocking to realize that what makes you happy is definitely not when you are in the boardroom and closing $1 million deal, but mostly when you're having lunch with your kids or having your coffee alone in your bed.
Yeah.
It's really open-minding because, like you mentioned in the book, something very important is still about the capitalism and the society that make us think that, you know, we work our whole life and then happiness will come in our 60s and our 70s, when we have to basically
live it
refocus.
Every day. Yeah.
And no, I mean, it's really amazing. And what do you think in the business mindset? Let's talk about like entrepreneur. How do you think that? What do entrepreneurs misunderstand about happiness and performance? Because I think this is very, you know, like you do what you love, but at the same time, you have to segment performance vs like happiness.
I think the business world in general doesn't get it at all, right? So one side is if you're an entrepreneur, you sort of tell yourself that delayed gratification of like, I'm going to make my life miserable for the next few years because eventually it's going to work out, right?
Yeah.
And believe it or not, that definitely doesn't work. Number one, you know, you don't have to work that hard to be successful, okay? And I say that with a lot of experience behind. I mean, I had a good corporate career. Chief business officer of Google X is not little. But I also co-founded 33 startups, right? And believe it or not, 80, maybe 90% of all of the stuff that startup founders focus on is useless, okay? And there is a moment in your maturity, in your growth, where you literally write down on a piece of paper everything you've done last week. And you tell yourself, was that really useful? Like, why am I trying to perfect everything? Like, there are 4 things in this entire list that really make or break my business. Okay? I'm going to just do the 4 things, and that's it. And I think that's a realization that most people don't understand, that when you're working so hard, you're either motivated by ego or greed or fear. Okay? But none of those is a positive motivating emotion. And the reality is, if you're smarter, you would actually be way more productive as a happy person than you would be if you were just stressed out of your skin, right? And I think that's the reality that most people don't understand, is that when you're stressing yourself to that point, you're either going to break and burn out, or every day of your life, you get a 20-25% you know, waste, basically, drainage, in terms of your body aching, your mind wandering,
Then you will get cancer, you will get, because of the stress.
Not only that, but even on the way to get there, you know, if you're constantly unhappy, that's consuming cycles in your head that you could dedicate to doing better business. Yeah. Okay? If you're unhappy, then, you know, you come across as unhappy, and then your partners and clients don't like you as much anymore, right? If you're unhappy, then
you get from your client what you project 100%. As an energy.
100%. If you're a happy person, your clients will welcome you to a meeting. Yeah. You know, if you're a happy person, your boss will want to have a conversation with you. If you're a happy person, your colleagues will want to cooperate with you. We know that. And you know, Stanford, if you're the scientific guys, basically says 31 to 37% more productivity if you're happy than if you're not, right?
Wow.
So, but that's one side. The other side is for managers. I don't call them leaders because that would be too generous. Who believe that by stressing people and making them unhappy, you can perform better. You know, you get that on the cover of Harvard Business Review, where the man in a striped suit going like, yeah, people perform best when they're stressed. Yeah, that's if they're cogs in a machine. If you're a very low-skill manager, really, pushing your people a little more creates 5% more productivity, but, you know, creates more attrition, more, you know, dissatisfaction. They'll try to backstab you whenever they can have a chance. That creates more politics in the organization. It, you know, it reduces productivity in general. You know, people perform best if they're not cogs in a machine, when they are working in the best teams, when they are motivated, when they believe in the mission, when they are creative, and so on and so forth, right? And so the idea is most startup founders will fall either in the trap of killing themselves, thinking that this is more productivity, feeling very unhappy about life when it really works against them, or killing their people, thinking that this is more productivity, when in reality, if you motivate people to be the best place to work and they're enjoying it and they're connected and they're good teams and so on, they'll produce more. And so in a very interesting way, I don't know how to say that in a way that will land properly, but it's almost your duty to be a happy manager, right? It's not a privilege. It's almost your duty to be a happy founder, and to spread happiness in your organization, because believe it or not, I told you I never really understood why I went that far in my career, but if there was anything, it was because I always took care of my people and created a very happy work environment. And,
that's amazing.
And if you do, then you end up hiring the best people, and they want to stay, and they bring their friends over who are also the best people. And then you succeed not because you're a very successful slave driver. You succeed because you're surrounding yourself with the most incredible people who are fully motivated to make your mission happen.
I agree. And something I also say to founders is about when we talk about the energy, and when you on this journey where you decide to have your own company, you have your own project, you have whatever you're creating, whatever is your business about, choose carefully your client, because I believe that.
Yes.
I understand that we all have this financial urge when we have our business and we are entrepreneur, which is, okay, we want to have money and to create contract, but say no more than yes, and choose carefully, because whatever the type of client you will choose, you will attract the same, because this person who have that amazing mindset and wanted to engage with you on your adventure and is maybe your first client, then you will perform with him because he's a good person and he understands and he treats you well, even if you're his supplier at some point, then he will refer you. So if you choose just the first client, even if he's treats you bad and he's not a good person, you're going to have the same type of client. And then most of the people, they leave corporate for that.
Yeah.
So choose your client wisely. And as a founder, like you mentioned, 34%, you are more you can produce more, 34% more. More
productive,
more productivity. And choose to be happy also, like why you have left your corporate world or why you want to have your business. Always have the why behind.
Yeah.
I choose because I believe that I have the capacity. I want to choose my time with my family. I want to spend the time with my daughter, with my parents, whatsoever. This is the why. And independence. Then I have clients that have the same thing.
Correct.
So even if they are not from your company, I believe this is very important to choose your client and maybe people will say no, but you say that, but we can't choose. Choose, and then we can speak about how it changed your turnover, because you like your client as well. And I believe my client, at some point they're like my partner because they engage with me, and then we create this virtuous world where I bring money, or I bring whatever they're looking for on the contract, and it's virtuous and it's positive, and then you have this boule de neige effect where everything then is successful. When it's opposite, if you just work with whoever is giving you a couple of small whatever they're giving you, it's just for me, I believe that this is also what will drive to the happiness.
100%. I mean, so most of my sales teams would come to me and speak about what, they're pitching to their clients. When I was a corporate executive, they pitched to their clients what they normally call the total cost of ownership. Mm-hmm. And I used to use a term that I coined that was called the total cost of the relationship. Mm-hmm. And you have to imagine that some clients give you $1 million, but drain the hell out of you, and complain all the time, and require maintenance all the time, and require your engineering time all the time because they're not qualified, and they negotiate really hard, and next time there is a business they still hold a consortium to make sure that they squeeze every dollar out of you, and so on. And if you just assign a value to your 7 a.m. annoying email that you get from those clients every day, and just multiply that by the number of emails that you get, and basically look at the total cost of the relationship. Because at the end of the day, if you're able to answer 100 emails a day and 7 of them are from that client, that's 7% of your productivity. And so you have to basically look at what makes your, what maximizes your return on every relationship, or on every client relationship.
Thank you. It's very on point. Let's talk a little bit about children. Because we teach the children to memorize information.
Good luck with that.
And machine knows every piece of information. What should we be teaching instead?
Learning. Curiosity, debate, investigating the truth, processing information, using information.
Critical thinking.
Critical thinking, using AI to become smarter, basically. So what most people don't understand is that we've created a utility called intelligence. In the past, for most of us, you have this plug in the wall where you plug in and get electricity, right? Now you have a plug in your phone or on your computer where you plug in and get intelligence, right? And so, you don't have to store the electricity in a battery anymore, because there are plugs everywhere, right? And similarly, you don't have to store intelligence in your head anymore, because intelligence is widely accessible. And so if it is widely accessible, then your question is, how do I use it? How do I utilize it? How do I become smarter? Okay? How do I start to become less gullible? Interestingly, how do I stop believing all of the crap that social media and mainstream media has been pouring in my head? Because now I have the intelligence to go out there and ask intelligent questions and say, is this even true? Right? One of the ways I use AI is if I get a message around someone claiming something about Charlie Kirk or whatever, I'd go to an AI and say, give me every other source and every other piece of information about this topic. Right? If an AI, an American AI gives me a certain picture of the geopolitical world, I'll go to DeepSeek, a Chinese AI, and say, give me the picture from your side on that. And then I make up my own mind. And I think that skill of, if intelligence now is outsourced, then the usage of intelligence is what we need to teach our children. And using intelligence starts with the right question, follows on with debate and verifying accuracy, and then goes into utilization.
Verifying through information.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. After everything you have seen, and you have seen quite a lot, what is the one thing that still matters?
Love. Yeah, look at me. Manly, beard, bald head. I think humanity has 3 objectives, despite everything the capitalists told you. We want to be happy, we want to make those we care about happy, and we want to love and be loved. And that's it, honestly. Everything else is a path to one of those. Everything else that you do is a path to one of those. If you're trying to be a millionaire, it's because you want to buy a Ferrari so that one girl looks at you and says, he's so cute.
So that's for love.
That's for love, right? If you want to buy a Ferrari because you think it's going to make you happy, good luck with that. If you want to buy your daughter a Ferrari because you think it will make her happy, good luck with that, right? And so the question is, do Ferraris, will they ever fulfill any of your human desires? Will your title as co-founder of whatever business make you, make you feel happy? Yeah. Will a fancy car make you feel happy? Yeah. Only just for a few minutes, really, right? And then you look at it, and if a title is going to make you happy, it's going to make you happy so briefly, because the minute it does, you're going to say, okay, so what's my next title?
Yeah.
Okay. If a car is going to make you happy, it's going to make you happy so briefly until you get behind the steering wheel and start to look at the road and not the car, right? And so the question is, what matters? I think what matters is that we live life fully, and the only way to live life fully is to focus on those three values: to be happy, to have the compassion to make others happy, and to love and be loved.
Thank you so much. I'm going to finish with the final question that I say to all my guests. What do you want people to say about Mo Gawdat 100 years from now?
You are the fourth person that asks me this question. Am I going to die soon? I don't know.
No, it's just
so interesting.
God forbid, please.
No, I don't mind. I want to be remembered for nothing. I said that many times. I honestly, genuinely do not.
Don't you want to be remembered?
For what? I'm going to be dead.
No, but
who cares?
Legacy
who
for
cares?
Your kids.
Where do they fill our lives with this crap from? See, the idea is that I'm dead. What difference does legacy mean to me? Legacy is a form of ego.
Okay.
That we tell ourselves that it's not good enough that we got on stage and people clapped for us. We want them to clap for us after we've decayed. That's, in my mind, that is staggering that we even talk about that. It's so interesting. What I would love is for anything that I teach that has any value whatsoever to live on. Yeah, to live on and make a difference to people's lives. My biggest wish is that they forget me. What good is it if they think about me? I want them to think about what makes their life better.
So that you try to make their lives better. Now you're doing the 1 billion happy and the Solve for Happy, for instance. For me, it's like a legacy on how we have to focus on what's happiness.
You see, this is. I don't know how to say it any clearer. I'll be very honest. There are stages in someone's life, normally when they're young, where they believe they're doing things. Mm-hmm. There is a stage in your life when you're old enough to realize that things are being done through you. That this interesting unfolding of cosmic events through space-time is directionally heading in a certain place where you are given resources, capabilities, and a mindset that allows you to choose to play in a specific way. Okay? Think of it as a video game. The entire game world, all of the non-player characters and most of the other players are already sort of pre-planned. And your role is to try and play your best game. Now, for some of us, again, very capitalist mentality, we think that we're going to play our best game because we're amazing. We are the entrepreneur that built the whatever. I was born to a specific, mother and father. One of them was highly academic, who taught me to study and read. The other was highly mathematical, who made me, love mathematics as I do. I was born with a tiny bit of, on the spectrum, which made me specialize in certain things and do them reasonably well. I married my wonderful Nibel my first wife, when I was, met her when I was 18, married her when I was 25, and she didn't want to stay in Egypt for long, so she took me because she wanted the family to grow up elsewhere, here to the UAE, where life became different. Then, I got those opportunities to work in certain places. Do you think I did that? That's so arrogant. So arrogant. If anyone looks back at their life, especially the older ones of us, they will realize that most of the things that made them the people who they are were not their choices at all. As a matter of fact, they were not planned at all.
Maktub.
It's a nudge, I call it. It's a nudge. Maktub it means it's predestined.
Yeah.
It's not. Okay? It's presented to those who pay attention. Okay? But they pick from it. So I'll tell you, I told you I write quite a bit. I don't publish as much as I write. And I wrote a book called Understanding Fate. I wrote 5 chapters of it and never published it. And part of that book was an attempt to understand why do certain people end up in certain places, and is it predestined? And so I ran an experiment, very interesting experiment. I decided, okay, so a big chunk of what defines fate is what people call luck. Okay?
Yeah.
And so I ran an experiment. I said, I'm going to look for US dollar cents, you know, the bronze ones, okay, for the next 3 weeks. For the following 3 weeks, I collected 137 of them, right? Note, I was never in America. I wasn't during those 3 weeks. I didn't even set foot in America. Okay, 137 US dollar cents specifically across the world, just because I started to look for them. Okay, so I escalated the experiment, and I decided to look for jewelry. And that time I was in New York City. The next morning, when I decided to study that experiment, the next morning at 7 a.m., I was standing on Broadway, okay, with my back to a closed shop, with what looked like a diamond ring on the floor in front of me, okay? And I counted as 70 people walked over it and nobody noticed it. I noticed it. Why? Because I was looking for it. Because I was prepared that the universe is going to send jewelry now that I'm looking for jewelry, right? And so it's quite interesting, huh? Most people will tell you, I made it. No, you would have never made it if you were not presented with the right opportunities, if you were never presented with the right parents that raised you in a specific way, with the right mindset, with the right attitude. Most of that was not you. It was given to you, okay? And some people will say, oh, they got lucky. No, luck is an attitude. And the truth is, the best players in any video game in the world, including the video game of life, are just looking for opportunities. They're waiting for life to say, try to go right. Okay? And they have the willingness to experiment and go right for 2-3 steps. And the willingness to admit that right was the wrong path and go back 2-3 steps and go left. Okay? And if you really, really see it that way, you realize that a big chunk of becoming something is really the way the game unfolded. And, you know, Malcolm Gladwell, sort of in Outliers, speaks about and where you were when the game started. Okay? And somehow, if you give yourself too much ego and tell yourself, I made it, good luck. You're lying to yourself. And if you give yourself too much of a victim mentality and say, I didn't have the luck, good luck. Luck is to be made.
Just listen to the sign.
Yeah, luck is to be made. Now, if this is what happens, if your luck is coincidences that are 100% available to everyone else, but you choose to pick them up, and if your success is 100% the result of the makeup that you are, that was never your design, so what puts you, where does that put you anywhere? It puts you as one instrument in the cosmic unfolding, where your choices affect everyone else. Right? You're not
butterfly effect.
100%. You're not the star of the movie. You're just but one more actor in that movie. And if that's the case, then going back to your question, why should you be remembered at all? Why don't you just play the freaking game? Live it fully. Love every minute of it. Make the best out of that game. And when the console switches off, move on. Live the next game. Play the next game.
Or remove the headset, but this is something we need to have in another podcast.
100%.
Thank you so much, Mo. It was just an amazing. Thank you for your time. Guys, I cannot tell you more to read this Solve for Happy. I just pick out 2, and there are many. And Scary Smart, you are going to release your new book.
Alive is in October.
Okay.
I urge startup founders to read Unstressable, to be honest.
Unstressable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unstressable is a wonderful
We'll put it
book.
on the bio.
Yeah.
And thank you for your time. Thank you for the advice. Thank you for the awareness. And we're all gonna try to be more happy and to live
and I'm
each
sorry
moment.
I scared you. So
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.